Yo, what is going on, guys? Welcome to the video, and today I want to talk about Far Cry 6 and what I liked about it, what I disliked about it, and should you play it? Alright, so let's start with the story. The story introduces you to a broken country under a dictatorship led by a man named Castillo. You play as Danny and must escape the military searching for you. You eventually make it to safety on a boat, but Castillo and his armed forces catch up to you, almost leaving you for dead. After all this goes down, you will meet a group of rebels named Libertad. At first, you will join them so that they can help you escape to America, but Danny eventually comes around and stays due to her military background and thirst for combat. Now, Danny will have to try and unite 3 other rebel groups to start a revolution and set Yara free from Castillo's grasp. Now, there's way more to that story, but that's just the summary. I found the first act of the story to be strong with an interesting plot and likable side characters. I loved meeting characters like Juan and Philly, especially Philly. When Philly was on screen, I always was giggling or smiling. He really brought the Philly magic to the screen. Once I progressed further in the game, I felt like I lost interest in the story, as you don't really have much interaction with Castillo or his lieutenants. I don't know how Far Cry can go from having too much interaction with its villains, like in Far Cry 5 with the stupid kidnapping sequences, to none at all. Remember how good Voss was? Remember the scene where he captures you and tells you the definition of insanity? That's what I'm missing here. I'm missing the thrill of being hunted and not knowing what could happen next. His lack of presence from Castillo made me feel like the character was underutilized here. You mostly see him give speeches or teach his son a lesson, but that's it. He kind of just takes a seat to the side. It's unfortunate too, because the voice actor does an amazing performance. I also think they could have definitely given his lieutenants more of a purpose and a reason to kill, as they felt very bland. I also found halfway through the story, most missions got a bit repetitive, and I felt like I was going around performing chores instead of starting a revolution. Overall, the story was okay at most, but had the potential to be great. Now that I've talked about the story, let's talk about the gameplay. Exploring Yara is a treat. From being able to discover military bases and securing them, searching for treasure, looking for loot crates, collecting artifacts, saving hostages, attacking checkpoints, and many more, this had me feeling a bit overwhelmed with content in a good way. I knew I was going to spend at least 30 plus hours on the game trying to explore most of Yara. If you thought that wasn't enough content, well, you're also introduced to Yaran stories, which have you complete side missions that will unlock useful rewards. Exploring Yara never felt like a chore either, because there's multiple ways to travel. You had horses, vehicles, and fast traveling all at your disposal. I also like the feature of being able to call a vehicle to your own location wherever you are in the world. You also had access to a grappling hook to climb hard to reach areas, or you could unlock a wingsuit to glide through the skies. The game has a lot for the player to do, and honestly, you could spend probably around 100 hours getting lost exploring this beautiful world. Far Cry 6 gameplay also introduces a resource system. These resources could be put towards upgrading your weapons. I really enjoyed upgrading my weapons. I found myself unlocking various attachments and perks to multiple weapons. I also like how you can unlock different ammo types that will be able to be effective against different enemy types. Another thing you could use these resources towards was the camps that you visited. These camps were the player's main hub for receiving or upgrading equipment. Camps had multiple upgrades you could add to them with the use of resources. Another thing Far Cry 6 does a great job at is combat. Shooting weapons feels solid. I also love the stealth melee animations. These were so satisfying to pull off, and I had a blast playing stealthy. Speaking of playing stealthy, I like using the suppressor attachment in the game, but suppressors have this overheating mechanic, and I hated this. If you were to spray your weapon, the barrel would overheat and lose its suppressed capabilities. On top of that, it has this awful animation that is used to showcase the gun was too hot, and it just looked ridiculous. Another thing I liked was how the game uses different ammo types to eliminate enemies. Heavy ammo would be effective against heavy targets, and soft targets rounds would be more effective against unarmored enemies. I found armor piercing rounds to be too effective at times because killing my targets with one shot to the head got really repetitive. Also, killing enemies overall got really repetitive as the game doesn't introduce any new enemy types. You would basically fight the same enemies like grunt enemies, heavily armored enemies, pyro enemies and sniper enemies. Later in the game, it does try to switch it up a bit by introducing poison enemies, but this doesn't change anything significant. Far Cry 6's AI feels sometimes inconsistent, as some enemies would lock onto me or scout me with ease, but some would be really stupid and just stare at me or not notice me. Another feature I liked about the game was the Supremos. These Supremos are weapons and equipment that give the player a little edge in combat or a way to switch things up with unique handcrafted weapons like a flamethrower or a nail gun. I found myself trying to almost unlock every single weapon and equipment for the Supremos. The equipment side of the Supremos were awesome, as you could shoot a mortar strike from your back, self-revive yourself, use EMPs to wipe out security systems, and many more. You could also add gadgets to your Supremos. I also enjoyed the unique weapons you could find all throughout Yara. These weapons had set attachments and perks that couldn't be edited. The last thing I want to talk about is Far Cry 6's gear system. This gear system is just bad. For me, it didn't work. It didn't work with the flow of the game at all. If anything, it just holds it back. The gear you could find all throughout Yara by looting Libertad crates, or you could buy it at vendors. Each piece of gear has different benefits, like being able to take less damage from armor-piercing rounds, or becoming blast resistant. The problem here is that the game uses a ranking system to rate its gear. Once I progressed further in the game, my gear wasn't strong enough to deal with the higher ranking foes. I don't think Far Cry 6 needs a gear system. It had me running around Yara looking for Libertad crates instead of focusing on the main objective at hand. The game also has FND crates that unlock weapons or gunpowder, but you can also find these while completing objectives. I really wish that the game would have just had a skill tree system instead. I wasn't a fan of running around just looking for crates and having to worry about what level my gear was or what stat bonus I needed. This doesn't completely ruin the game, but I just wish Ubisoft would try to stop making every game an RPG. Far Cry isn't Fallout, so please don't add this in the next game. I think Far Cry 6 has the potential to be one of the best Far Cry games yet. It takes a lot from what I liked from previous games and adds it here, but it also adds great additions like Supremos. I also like Yara, and I think it's the best location we've had yet. It's unfortunate that it loses its Philly magic with weak story, villains, and some gameplay elements that drag down the experience. I would give Far Cry 6 a chance if you see it on sale. I still think it's 100% a game any Far Cry fan should play. Anyways guys, that's it for me today. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, leave a comment down below, hit that thumbs up button, and subscribe for more gaming commentaries like this one. And are you guys going to pick up Far Cry 6 eventually, or have you played it? Let me know, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.